Now it's time to match the skirt pieces together. I'm going to set aside the fabric for the top portion. We're not ready for that yet. Skirted panels can be very dressy and formal, or they can be really cute in a girl's room, or just as something to draw interest down to the bottom, especially if you want to draw interest away from something up top. If maybe it's acoustical ceiling or something that's not attractive up top, you don't want to draw the eye up. You want the eye to be focused on the bottom. If there's beautiful hardwood floors, having the skirt really puts an accent to the bottom of the panel. To match, I'm going to show you a couple different ways, 2 different ways to match. I've taken one skirt cut, the whole piece, and I'm going to put a half on each side. This is the bottom, so I need to find the one that has the selvage and the bottom. So this one, the bottom, is pinned here. That's not a selvage edge, so I know that one goes on the other side. This one, I find my pin, that's the bottom. This is a selvage, so this one fits on this side. You can see how the flowers line up. I'm just going to fold it under and hold it up. So the flowers line up. And you'll notice on the selvage there is a key, fabric key, that has all the colors. They're numbered 1 through 11. That means there's 11 colors in this fabric. On a lot of fabrics, you can actually line up the fabric key. So where the fabric key lines up here, where the 2 keys, this one and this one, match, that means the fabric will match right there. It's not always accurate, so this doesn't work all the time, but it does work on this fabric. This fabric is a really nice, printed correctly. So you can line those up. So I know that matches right here. I'm just going to turn under about maybe ½ inch at the most and just lay that on here and see how it matches up. Now I have to come back a little bit, less than ½ inch, and then match it up again, and that'll work great. So I'm just visually, I can see both fabrics. I'm lining them up together so that the flower comes out even, the next leaf comes out even, so I can see how much I need to turn under. And I'm going to go ahead and press that in so I have a crease all the way down. And then I can place that right on top of the material. Again, lining up all the flowers. This can be a lot of fun when you're working on fabric that has people, where you're lining up arms and legs. Okay, lining up leaves, flowers. Sometimes there may be, you can see here, to get this flower and this one to match, I'm going to have to ease it in a little bit, because that's a little bit more. But I can pull the fabric underneath, stretch it a tiny bit, get that to line up. So that works. I'm going to put pins in, just catching a couple, maybe come over about a 1/16 of an inch, and catching that crease. So I'm putting a pin in just like that and stabbing it into the table. This work table has a nice underlayment where I can stab pins right in. And keep coming down. If you feel like you need to stretch it a little bit, that's fine. You don't want to stretch a whole lot because you'll end up with a puckered seam. Okay, to the next one. And all the way to the end. I think I need to put one more pin up here. That's great. So there it is, pinned all the way across. And I'm going to lift up and pin through, not catching the face fabric. I'm just pinning into the selvage. You're not going to be able to see this on camera because it's actually underneath. But I will flip it up for you when it's all pinned. Coming down with my hand to the next one and pinning that all together to the next one. Now I'm doing it this way so that I can press the seam open. I'm pinning it, I'll sew it, trim it, and then press the seam open. There are times when you want the seam pressed open, and there's times where you want the seam pressed to one side. If you want a flatter surface, you'll want to press the seam open. One is not necessarily better than the other. Sometimes you do want to press the seam open in some cases. Sometimes it's better to have it to one side. In a sheer, for example, it looks better to have a small, narrow seam pressed to one side than to have a seam pressed open. But I'm going to show you both ways on this skirt. This will be the seam pressed open. So I've pinned it all together. So there's the crease that I pressed in, the pins where I stabbed it in and then pinned it through from the front. So when I sew, I'm going to sew from pin to pin in that crease line. That crease line is where it lined up with the flowers on the other side. So I'll be sewing all the way down right in that crease line as I get to a pin. I'll either gently sew over it or pull them out. I'm not recommending you sew over pins, but any of us that have been in business a long time do it often. You just want to be careful when you get to a pin. Slow down. Watch to make sure the needle is missing the pin and not going to jam right into it.